Hi, this is Dr. Jose Saldivar with another episode of the Way to College podcast. One of the real benefits and privileges that I have as a host of this podcast is that I get to meet phenomenal people, extraordinary people with amazing stories. And it really is, for me, it is a privilege, it is a blessing to, to create a space for folks to share and hopefully, inspire and encourage others who are listening to on their own paths, on their own journeys. And today is no different. Today, I have a young man who I'm somewhat familiar with his journey, but I'm really looking forward to hearing really the everything because I've heard bits and pieces, and so I'm eager to hear what he has to share with us. So, Cesar, would you mind introducing yourself to our
Sure.
listeners out there?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Cesar Barron Castro. I am a DACA recipient. I am a civil engineer specializing in structural engineering, and I own Barron Engineering.
Awesome.
Also, I'm a little nervous because I'm a pretty private guy. So you're gonna have to help me out a little bit here.
You're gonna be fine, Cecil. I know you're gonna be fine. So, but thank you again for joining us. Especially since you said you're a private guy. So, um, I know I know coming on and sharing your story isn't necessarily an easy thing. So I appreciate what you're doing today,
Sure.
Cesar. I start off every one of my podcasts with the same question, and the question is: if you had to go back and identify a starting point in your educational journey, what would that starting point be for you?
Uh, that's. I guess I have two answers to that. One of them being when I first came to the United States. I was 8 years old, um, and I came here illegally. So when I crossed the border, I remember very specifically seeing the American flag, and I was like, "Oh man!" I don't know why. I remember that moment just very vividly, and it's like I'm here for the taking. As an 8 year old, I remember this. I just, you know, I had just spent 2 or 3 months with my 12-year-old brother, just us two in Monterrey by ourselves with our coyotes, right? So that was just nerve wracking, even as an 8 year old. Um, anyway, seeing that American flag was just like, oh, okay, let's do this. It's just, I'm not here to play games. Again, that's a very weird thing to say from an 8 year old perspective, you know. Um, so I guess I do remember uh, that I started, I believe, in fourth grade here in the United States. And I had teachers who taught me English and were very encouraging. And I'd say that's really when my first educational journey began. But then, I did become a little mischievous and whatnot. And fast forward to high school, uh, I wasn't too into school. I did like math. Um, so I was good in my math classes and not so much in physics, though I am a structural engineer now, so that's just a funny thing. But I'm good now. I'm good now. And um, uh, I remember that I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to make it in terms of uh, grades to college, and I got accepted to the blend team. That's a collaboration between uh, Blinn College in Bryan, Texas, and Texas A&M University. I, and I don't remember exactly what their whole goal is, but I do know what happened to me was I got accepted to this program where I would take half of my courses, introductory courses at Blinn, and then the other engineering half, introductory engineering courses at A&M. Well, I was nervous because I didn't have the money for it, though it was relatively cheap as compared to going to A&M full time. And this is where this the second spot of my journey begins. Is I I ever since I was 14, 15, I worked as a ranch hand with this man, this amazing man. Um, I consider him a kind of like a father figure, also, you know, a mentor, and uh, grew up working with him. I told him I was 17, by the way, because you know legal age and whatnot. I kind of lied. but, it, back to my point in time where I was about to enter college. This man, again, he's a very hard worker. He taught me a lot of things. He never is the type of guy that, you know, I guess I get a lot of my uh, mentality from, you know, you don't deserve anything in life, you earn it type of thing. And he comes up to me one day after work, because I would go work for him after school and on the weekends and whatnot. And he just says, "Hey, here's a gift from Jane and I. That's his beautiful wife, and it's $1,000 check." I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to take him. I was frozen, right? And finally, he's like, grab it, and I take it, and I just hug him, and I start. I mean, I did cry, but that I guess that it was a realization of, man, it's happening. I didn't think to be up to that point. To be honest, I didn't think I was gonna go, um, and so submitted the payment. Um, did my freshman and sophomore year um, through Blinn team, and had to maintain a good enough GPA. I think it was 3.5 or something. I don't remember. And I transferred on, or sorry, towards the end of my sophomore year, I was struggling quite a bit to maintain rent and, you know, just living expenses and whatnot with my family. And I said, man, I got to do something about it. I mean, let me go talk to a professor. So I was taking at the time a class with Dr. Jones in mechanics and materials. And I go up to his office. I didn't know what I was going to ask him. I just went up there and I said, hey, how's it going? My name is so and so. And so, do you like soccer? It was a very random question because I saw the clock on his wall that it was a soccer ball. And it was a little awkward conversation. And he's like, I do. And we talked for like 5 minutes. I walk out. It was very awkward. And um, I kept thinking, man, okay, let me see what else I can ask him. And I just keep bugging him. Finally, I started asking him actual questions about the class. I wasn't struggling with the class. I just wanted to meet the guy.
Yeah.
And he finally got tired of me, I guess, after the fifth time. He said, okay, what is your name? and I said, my name is Cesar Barron Castro. It's like, okay. And we just developed a relationship that allowed me to do so much. I mean, he encouraged me to apply to scholarships, because I'm a DACA recipient. I couldn't get scholarships from the government or anything. It was pretty hard for me to get scholarships and money in that sense, grants. And he said, why don't you apply to scholarships from the engineering or engineering college of engineering, sorry, college of engineering. And I said, I can do that. He said, yeah, of course. They're open to anyone. You know, you have these companies and corporations just donating money for this purpose. So I did, last minute, of course. And sure enough, I got a scholarship that pretty much paid my way through junior and senior year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. It pays to go and talk to your professors, huh?
Oh my gosh, it did. You know, I mean, just it started with talking to him and then just talking to other professors and just going in and bugging them. And again, a lot of times it was a little awkward because there was no real rhyme or reason as to why I was going. I was just like, let me go bug him and try to develop a relationship. Um, and he offered me a not a teaching assistant position because I was not a graduate student, so he couldn't do that. So I was essentially working, helping him for free and helping other students learn dynamics and these courses that we take for structural engineering. Well, this helped me because during that time, as I was an undergrad, junior, I believe, I, I met this man, William Williams, who works for the Texas A&M Transportation Institute. And he was getting his PhD at the time. And he was just, you know, going to Dr. Jones's class to just freshen up on some topics. And Dr. Jones said, "Hey, William's looking for an engineering training to help him out." So we got to meet, and I got a job as an intern at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute, working for William Williams. And what I did there was help with the design of bridge railings. This is what he specializes in, and also anti-terrorism barriers. So that was pretty cool. And again, just kind of following up in this uh, evolving effect of meeting people was when I was a junior, uh, I went to a career fair that I didn't think I was fit enough because I didn't have really the highest GPA, all the experience, all the internships. But I remember this gentleman just, it was the end of the day, and I was there for 8 hours, and no one really was interested in me. This gentleman just comes by and knocks, taps me in the back. And he says, "Hey, you're a structural engineer?" I said, "Yes." And he said, because we had the tag on our chest that said what department we were from. And he said, "Are you interested in explosions?" I said, "Kind of, sure."
You know, any other career, I'd be wary if somebody says, "Are you interested in explosions?" But I guess for a structural engineer, says that it makes sense. Okay, go ahead.
uh, so it turned out it was a gentleman working for Baker Risk. They're this international company that um, is composed of chemical engineers, different types of specialties, mechanical engineers, structural engineers, and they work with petrochemical facilities, and they help mitigate damages from explosions or that sort of thing, right? So that's why he was asking me if I like these explosions, to try to help mitigate building damage from those. And so I interviewed. I got the job for an 8 month co-op. It was an 8 month co-op offer, and it was great. I met John Dyer there, and just an amazing guy. He's actually Mexican, full Mexican. When he first started speaking to me in Spanish, I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" It's like, John Dyer, is that your name? So it was just it's a great experience there. Um,
Says that I'm going to stop you really quick because there. I mean, you talk about 2 points in your life that you could say your education started here, and the first I want to go back to. You talked about coming to the U.S. You're 8 years old, correct?
yes,
You talked about being in Monterrey for 2 to 3 months. Was that right? 2 to 3 months with just it was just you and your brother.
correct. My whole family had already migrated to the United States,
Uh huh.
and um, my oldest brother and I were the last one from our from our family to cross into the United States, and we we were in Mexico for about 2 to 3 months, just with I guess our coyotes, and just a bunch of people around us. People we didn't know, mostly just grown-up people, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so we were there for 2 to 3 months, and every now and then, I think once I remember one of my family members, one of my aunts, come and visit us just to check in and see if everything was all right. Because we're from Guanajuato, so it's kind of central Mexico, I believe, central southern Mexico. And but for the most part, yeah, it was just us two, and we crossed over with this lovely lady and her daughter, and we actually crossed over the bridge itself. And go ahead.
Do you? You're 8 years old, and were you scared?
Man, no, yes, and no, because I remember it's funny now, but I I remember, my brother may call me a liar. I don't know that we tried once to cross over, and we were called back. It was like, oh, the people that weren't before us, they got stopped, so let's not risk it. And then we got transferred to another coyote, I suppose, and that's where this lady came in, this older lady. And there they would put us in rooms where they would kind of, I guess, imitate interrogating us, asking us our names, our birth dates, all this and that, because it was on hours. Um, and where you from and all this and the accent of it, that was the scariest part. And I guess in retrospect, they did it on purpose so that we wouldn't be scared when it came down to it. Um, but no, when we walked through the bridge, it was nice. People were just real nice to us. We just kind of said hi and bye and just walked through, and that's what I mean. I remember stepping over that white or yellow line, the U.S., looking at the flag, and just be like, "Ah, I wanted to jump." But
I imagine, and I wanted to ask because, you talk about the relationships that you establish when you're in college and the people that you meet, and it sounds, you make it sound really easy.
oh, it's nice.
The ease with which you went up and met with professors and people and developed these relationships, right? And I say you make it sound easy because, yeah, I don't, I work with first generation students, first year students. Been doing it for about 20 years now, and I can encourage my students, get my students to do a lot of things. Asking them to visit a professor
Yeah,
is, that's hard. And for you to say, I went and I just, had no kind of ulterior motive except I want to get to know this professor, and I'm going to go and I'm going to go and I'm going to go and I'm going to go. Like the persistence and again the ease that you make it sound, is something that I think, I don't know if you just, to cross with your 12-year-old brother to the United States, to be on your own for 2 or 3 months. I mean, you're around a bunch of adults, but still, I don't know. I think that says a lot about you, and just, and also that attitude that you said when you crossed and you saw the flag and you said, "All right, it's mine for the taking." Like just not one to pass up opportunities. Is that safe to say?
yes. Um, it it is, but at the same time, every single step of the way has been scary. I'm not gonna lie, it's been nerve-wracking. Because, and I'll go back to your point about meeting people, but um, there was growing up, there was always this worry of, man, I'm scared of cops. We thought they were gonna stop us, ask us if we were Mexican, and send us back to Mexico. We're just not informed. We're ill-informed, and the more and more I learned about things, and like I said, just meeting this gentleman in my life, his name is Johnny Mancuso, great guy, man. Um, just, I think that's in my life in general, that was a turning point because he got me out of my comfort zone. His strong personality, just an amazing guy. He's a business leader. He's very well known, and um, just who we are, and he's, I would say he's white, is a is staunch Republican. But again, I didn't know any of this when I was growing up. I didn't know these things, and um, and as I got to know him and work with him, I saw that he just respected people who worked hard. He himself came up from humble beginnings, and he's just an amazing guy. He'll give you an opportunity if you show that you're the type of guy who's going to take it, right? And like I said, I kind of lied my way through a couple of things. I'm 18, 17, really, I'm 15 to try to work. But even that experience, when I first was introduced to him through my dad, I was very nervous. I was like, man, I'm gonna fudge up this job. I barely speak English. I I could speak English, but and even, I guess, fast forwarding that same sort of mentality to college, I was like, man, I'm gonna mess this up. Right? I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but hey, you know what? I know how to work. I'm gonna put in work. I'm not gonna let anyone outwork me. Um, and I didn't. There was a lot of late nights, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of and struggle. But again, a lot of that could have been prevented by being more open with people. And now answering your question about meeting with professors, I figured that I didn't know anyone in that was an engineer, that was a doctor. You know, I just people are born to those environments. People do know people who are in that environment, but I just didn't, right? I just didn't know anyone like that. And I said, well, who's the closest person that I am in touch with that could get me in that environment? And I was like, well, that's probably a professor. And that's what I was like, all right, let me try to meet some of these people because I don't know what to do. My grades are they're okay. Um, but I need to make. I'm not gonna let this opportunity go to waste. I'll be danged. You know. Uh, so that's when I just started going, and like I said, it was just weird, awkward, but I said I got to do this. I got to do something. You know, like I said, I'm not the smartest guy, but I'll make something happen. Um, so so no, it didn't come any. All of what I've done has not come as easy as I guess I make it seem. It's um, and I'm young. I'm very young actually for what I've done.
I did call you a young man, Cesar. I
Yeah.
did call you a young man.
So I'm speaking like I'm 40 or something. Yeah, I'm 27. um, no, so it's just, and even when I met John Dyer, all these guys, like I was like a dog with a tail between its legs. You know, it's just like, hey, how you doing? I'm this guy who somehow got this job. uh, but I started having a lot more confidence as I got to meet these people and people who saw that I was there to make something out of it. And because they saw that I wasn't just there to waste my time, they were more willing to help. I started asking for help. I started asking for advice, started to poke the brains uh, and they saw this. So they were like, all right, let me take a chance with this guy and try to help him out. And I started developing I guess my confidence, if that makes any sense. And that by doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right? You've done it. You do it enough times, right? And you start to feel pretty confident. This is the way things work, and you had some early success with those early relationships, and so yeah, I often share with folks when I went away to school. Yeah, I didn't know anybody, and I was kind of a quiet kid, and I absolutely stepped out of my comfort zone. And I always tell my students, I lived in my dorm and I went like door to door, like, hi, I'm Jose Salido. Hi, I'm Jose Salido. Kind of so that everybody knew me. And even with professors, I remember one feeling, especially like a fish out of water, and I wasn't sure I was going to make it. And I remember early on in one of my first classes, a professor saying like participation was 20% of your grade. And they were really small seminar style classes. So I thought, holy crap, I don't feel confident. I don't feel smart. So I remember going and I basically lived in office hours. I would go to all of my professors and I'd introduce myself and tell them, look, I'm doing all the reading. I'm trying my best. I'm just really nervous. I'd tell them about myself, tell them about where I was coming from. And that worked. That worked for me. So I absolutely get what you're saying, right? You go out, you put yourself out there and you have that little bit of success and you figured, you know what, I think I can do this moving forward. So you're in Blinn, you meet all of these people, right? Taking classes at A&M. You get your junior, senior paid for, which is
Yeah.
amazing, right? Now, you know, we didn't get to discuss this, but when you're a high school kid, you mentioned you were a ranch hand. All of this work that you're doing, did you have college in mind? Was that part of the
No.
plan? What was your plans, SI?
I was gonna be an NFL superstar. So
Wait, were you
actually,
wait, were you playing football?
I was a
Oh, okay.
decent kicker. I was a decent kicker, but yeah, that was in my mind how I was gonna get out of having to do manual labor and all this stuff. And I was in high school and I had enough of it. And I remember after football games on Friday nights, or yeah, I think it was usually Friday nights. The next day, it's just you come back home late and whatnot and tired, I had to be up at 6 because Johnny was expecting me at 7. But anyway, I was decent in high school with kicking, I guess, and I was I used to check in on myself and my ranking, but I was like top 3 in the state and that sort of deal. Um, and I had my junior year uh, scouts. I think at one point A&M just kind of went to see who I was because they're our neighbors in Navasota, Texas. We're 20, 30 minutes away from A&M. University of Houston, the Air Force, who, Sam Houston. Those colleges were interested in me, and at the same time, they wanted me to either fly out there or go to them to go to these camps. But I was just this guy who was like, man, I can't get a plane ticket. I can't do these things. I bet I could, now think about it. But um, I messed up my ankle playing soccer, just kind of with my brothers, and from there, my kicking career was over pretty much because my kicks were going either left or right, and it's just and that's what I mean by his senior year. I was just like, all right, I guess I could try college.
Cesar, let me ask you. You said your parents immigrated to the states ahead of you. Um, were they encouraging you to go to college? What were they? What were they?
Yes,
What were their hopes for you?
yes, they wanted me to go to college. I have 4 siblings, so it's 5 of us total, 5 kids. And to all of us, they were like, "Hey, growing up, my dad was very much you've got to work, you've got to do this, you earn the value of the dollar." Um, I said, but first and foremost, you got to get you an education. You got to learn how to speak the language. You got to learn what the customs are here. You got to respect that. And and they were always saying, "Don't waste your time. Get you an education. It's figure it out." And that sort of deal. So yes, they were very much. They didn't know how it was going to happen either. My brother actually, Carlos, my oldest brother, was the first one to go to college, and I mean, I respect him. He was the one that figured it out all himself because my parents just didn't know anything. He went to Texas A&M Prairie View University, and he's an electrical engineer now. But thanks to him, that also was helping. It helped me say, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna ask him how he met his friends, how he did a couple of things. So so to answer your questions, yes, my parents were always persistent on you guys get you an education.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so I guess having an older brother who's going into electrical engineering, was that where the interest for engineering came from? Where did that come
I
from?
think so. No, I think engineering in general, yes, he was just a role model, but
Mm.
also just working with my hands growing up. Uh, yeah, little things like building fences, welding, chopping up stuff, being a ranch hand, or every now and then on random weekends, go with my brother building fences or putting up a small little barns together and whatnot. I wanted to go into construction. I figured, there's these big old buildings. Who actually is behind the desk calling the shots? I want to be that guy.
No more manual labor for you, huh?
Yeah. Uh, I think, I remember thinking along those lines, but it was never of, okay, well, how do I get there? How do I, until I got to college. I figured out, okay, civil engineering deals with construction. I'm going to get in there. And then once I took a couple of courses, like I said, introductory courses, my first and second year of college, I was like, oh, okay, I like structural engineering. And that's where I started getting into my career.
So you finish up at A&M, and then what is it like for, because I meet countless students that say, I want to be an engineer. And so you finish up at A&M, and earlier at the beginning when you introduced yourself, you said you own your own company now, right? I don't imagine that when you graduated from A&M, you immediately said, "Oh, I'm going to open up my own company." Did you do that, or what's the route that most engineers take, or in your case, a structural engineer? What's the route that most structural engineers take when you're done with your undergrad?
So most engineers, that what I would encourage people to do is try to meet people, get an internship, go to these career fairs, go to these um, I don't know what to call them, clubs, I guess, um, for engineering and things like that. So you can network. Networking is key. It's just meeting people, networking, and your group of friends. Because all my group of friends were these guys were also in my same situation, mostly actually, where they grew up with certain circumstances that they couldn't do certain things. They were either also illegal or just had a humble beginnings, you know. So we were all hungry for it, and I guess I'm a little, me and a couple of friends were a little bit of an exception. In our junior year, we said we're gonna open up shop. You know, we again we had the mindset of we came here, we're not gonna waste our time. Um, you know, it's I'm not gonna be um, what's the word? Satisfied, I suppose, with just going into a desk and leaving and going back and leaving and going back, working for someone else. When that's what my parents have done this entire time, and you know, we came here for a reason. So, like back to your question. Sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Um, Most people go get internships and then get an engineering job, and then they work a couple of years, maybe 5 to 6 years, as a engineering training and a project engineer. And then from there, they probably get transferred to a project managerial role. And then from there, just kind of start climbing the ladder, right? Or if you just want to stay technical, you start really, really specializing in some sort of engineering uh, material or something. I was very fortunate in the sense that I got introduced to different uh, with let me back up. Within civil engineering, there's seven specialties, and I don't remember them all. But there's water resources, structural engineering, traffic engineering, um, and four others. And I was fortunate to see some of the transportation engineering, I suppose, with William Williams, like I mentioned before during my internship. I was fortunate enough to see a very specialized form of structural engineering with John Dyer at Baker Risk. I also got an internship later on, thanks to Ricardo Martinez at Walter P. Moore in Houston. And there they do these awesome, huge buildings in downtown Houston. They designed the Ranger Stadium. That you know that's those sorts of buildings, really tall, high-rise buildings, and I got to see that and work a little bit with concrete beams and stuff like that. And I got to do some civil engineering, designing detention ponds and um, uh, platting and things like that with Paul Malik, actually in my hometown in Navasota, Texas. He has his own firm there, and I worked with him during my master's. I was full time with him and full time during my master's, and I was a project engineer with him. So I got to do a range of things with him with in wastewater treatment plants, those sorts of structures. I got pretty good at those, and also some civil engineering, county bridges. I got a vast array of design experience that has, I guess, shaped me in a different way. I didn't really specialize in one specific thing, but I worked hard in a lot of different things. uh, Sorry, I forgot your question. I just kind of went off the
Well,
rails.
no, that's good because I think like we were talking about, you know, right? What's next after? So, you know, you said that 5 to 10 years, you know, you kind of work your way up. You said you and your buddies knew you kind of wanted to open up your own shop. You guys had that idea in mind. So you're doing all of this work. At what point did you decide I need to open up my own shop? Or what time? At what point did you feel? I mean, because it sounds like in throughout all of your story, you were never lacking in confidence. So,
I was
where,
always very nervous.
well, nervous is one thing, but being confident enough to say, I'm going to go talk to these professors. I'm going to talk to these folks. I'm going to work on get this internship. Right? You've graduated. You At what point do you say, I'm going to open up my own shop?
I always had the idea, like I said, but the point where it was going to become a reality, I think was about this time last year when I decided, you know what, I can do this. I should do this. And the reason, well, not a reason, but part of the reason why I got the confidence to make that huge jump, it is a huge jump. I mean, it's, significant, was that in the years leading up to that, even during that time when I was thinking about it last year, I was talking to a lot of different engineers that I met along the way, like, and I would ask them questions about, what made you choose this career path? What do you, like I said, I just wanted to meet them. I wanted to make that connection. I wanted to make a relationship to learn from them, not to gain anything from them, but to just learn and get their advice. And I remember maybe during my first internship, somebody said, what if I open up my own business? And for whatever reason, it just kind of stuck with me. And it was one of these engineers. And then another one, I don't know, said it doesn't. When I moved out from that co-op, and I told them, sorry, I won't be coming back. Uh, One of them said it doesn't need to be the biggest structure or building. It just needs to be a building, right? So he gave me good advice. Like, you don't need to have the biggest, fanciest title or job, or design the biggest, fanciest thing or the most complicated thing. And and as I was talking to these people, one of them said, one who was, just a very, very good engineer, just world class guy, literally. In terms of engineering, is that it's a good thing that this is what you were doing. Looking back, I would have done it. And again, this is an older gentleman, and even Paul Malik, whom I worked for just recently, he that's who I worked for before opening up shop. He said, if there's anyone that can do this, it's you, right? So talking to all these engineers and getting this sort of feedback, because I was letting them know what my thoughts were. I was just completely open. Um, Reassured me, yeah, man, you you can do it, and you want to do it. So I'm not afraid of risk, man. I risked my family and I risked it all by coming over. So, uh, in a very real sense. So, and even talking to people like Johnny and really people who aren't afraid to hurt your feelings, people who really care about you, people who will tell you the honest truth. I was waiting for the guy to tell me, nah, you don't have it in you, man. What are you doing? or, or yeah, you should wait a couple of years. Oh, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, a lot of these guys were like, man, sounds like I've worked with you. Especially Rod. I said, I've worked with you. You're a great engineer. You've made up your mind. Go for it, man. You're young, and it's but my other mentors, same thing. They're like, hey, if anyone can do it, it's you. You're cut from a different hide, and those sorts of encouragements. Um, so I decided to do it, and I guess that was the point. And that's around this month last year. Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
For, you mentioned a couple of things right now. You said, you're aware of risk, right? Your family risked everything to come to the States to give you all better opportunities, and you've taken advantage of those opportunities. Um, what advice would you give? Um, what advice would you give young people who are sort of finding their way at the university, just getting started, and just looking for some sort of direction? You took it upon yourself to go talk to that professor. Um, maybe speak from that point, right? I don't know what it was that told you I need to talk to this guy, but what advice would you give somebody who's just lost? They're looking for direction. You seem to have found your direction early. What advice would you give somebody looking for theirs?
Um, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and you were gonna ask something like this, so I went out and I said, you know what? I know what I'm gonna say. let me see what these other guys have to say. Like I said, I have friends who were in the same boat, so to speak, as I was, that went to college and now are doing very well. Um, and first and foremost, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. I learned that from Johnny at a very early age. so, uh, so just be persistent. That's really what that means, right? Squeaky wheel gets the oil. Be persistent. And I suppose there's four more things that I wrote down, and I'll say things that I've learned from people along the way. Like I mentioned, I always ask people for advice, always. Even if, if I think I'm gonna bug them, it's like, you know what? The worst thing they can say is no, whatever.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with, as an acronym, rich people. And that's responsible, people with integrity, people with good character, and people that are honest. Um, and so essentially, people who aren't afraid to hurt your feelings because they have these attributes, right? Um, then never be the smartest person in the room. Just be yourself and be humble. Have initiative, reach out to people and ask for help. That's a big one. I do that all the time, man. And man, just get it done. Just, like I said, every time I do something and I think it's a big step, I do get nervous, just naturally. Everyone does. If people say they don't, they're lying to you. Um, but at the end of it all, it's like just get it done, man. You're already here. Just do it.
That's great advice. I'm glad you prepped. Although I never know what I'll ask. But yeah, for the most part, I do ask, right? What advice would you give people starting out? So I appreciate that. I really do. Um, Cesar, thank you for your time this afternoon. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with, or anything we didn't get to talk about that maybe you'd like to talk about, or
uh, like like I mentioned before, it's funny. I said before that I was a pretty private guy. Here I'm chatting it up, right?
yeah, I haven't had any problems getting you to talk, Cesar.
but
But I knew that. I knew I wouldn't.
I guess the reason is because I know there's people out there like me who are worried, are scared when I was in high school, or are nervous. Man, I can't do this because of my legal status. I can't do this other thing because of whatever circumstances in life. But like I said, just do it, man. What's the worst thing that can happen, really? Just all you. If you already hit rock bottom, in the case of my family, we came over, we had nothing. I remember that very vividly. We were all in a little, what do you call those, campers?
Yeah.
They're not even a
Little.
whole mobile home. Seven of us stuck in there.
Wow.
So I was like, I can go back to that. It's no big deal. It's, if worst comes to worst, I'll do it all over again. I don't mind starting all over and working hard. So
Well,
just do it.
I don't know if you don't tell Olivia that she might.
Yeah, she won't let me.
Yeah, I know. No, she will. But
Thank
Cesar, thank you again. Thank you so much. I enjoyed hearing your story. Like I said, I heard bits and pieces of it, but to hear it from you, and to see I think the enthusiasm that you tell it with, I really appreciated that.
thank you.
Um,
Yeah. Like I said, I was probably all over the place, but hey, hopefully people can get something out of
that
that.
that's the point, man. I when I created the podcast, it was because I think we sell kids on this idea that life is a straight line, and
No.
it's rarely a straight line.
Yeah. Like I said,
Yes.
I'm young and I'm surprised. Like people point that out to me often. Oh, you have a business, but you're 27. I said, yes, so you're good. uh, so yeah, and that's just like you said, it's not a straight path. It's just winding road, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Absolutely.
to learn still.
We all do. We
Yeah.
all do, right? And I think as long as we accept that and we embrace it, I think we're all good. So, Cesar, thank you again. This concludes another episode of the Way to College podcast. Tune in next time. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and rate. And we'll see you soon. Bye bye.